kaming dalawang mapa dyan. Ito po yung affected ng shear line on the left. On the right, to the right is the trough of LPA. Number of barangays affected, cannot see, 138 or 58% of the 237 barangays po sa shear line. May legend po tayo dyan. Orange is for the combination of landslide and flooding. The brown, yun po yung landslides. Tapos yung parang purple sa floods. Mas marami, lumaki po yung affected areas nung nag-trough na kasi naging 151 or 64% of the 237 barangays na po. Please, next slide. So, showing to you some pictures of what happened during the occurrence of a shear line. Next slide po. Ayun. Directly affected population, 139,366 individuals. Then, the damage to agriculture. Actually, there's a technical error po nung hectarage. That's only 87,329.64 hectares. Kasali na po dyan yung fisheries. Sa livestock and poultry, 514,262. Tapos, we also have there the number of farmers and fisher folks affected, 6,622. Tapos, agri-infra, 5,400,000. So, total po is 229,270,051. So far as the assistance provided, nag-provide po ang PLGU together with the, DSWD ng 16,586 family food packs. Or a total cost of 11,029,690. Tapos marami din po tayong nasirang mga bahay, totally damaged 64, partially 43. Casualties, we have 13 dead, 9 missing. Sa bridges and roads, damage po is 203,462,300. Next slide, please. Pictures also of, yes sir, lubog talaga po sa baha. At tingnan nyo naman yung mga bridges and roads namin. Only a few kasi madami pa po talaga. Next slide, please. Ayun. To the left is in Moncayo, Diwalwal, yung Diwata where we had the landslide na killed one family. Actually, 11 lahat. Tas, yun, mga landslides. Next slide, please. Okay, dito naman tayo sa effects of the trough of a low pressure area to the province of Davao de Oro. 151 or 64% of the 237 barangays were affected. When you say affected, those are those directly affected. Kasi talagang ang dami pa po niyang indirectly affected by the fact na naputol yung mga roads, yung bridges, yung mga products, agricultural products ng mga tao natin, di naman po yun makakalabas. So, wala din silang income. So, directly affected lang po yan. Next slide, please. Okay, so sa trough, lumaki ng ang population na affected. It has now become 157,333. Tapos ang assistance provided by the DSWD, it's been more than 10,000. So far, we've distributed 10,000 or worth 6,650,000. MLGU, 2,869 family food packs, PLGU 11,000. Tas ang damage to agriculture, malaki na po, naging 357,000 million, 98,794.98. Next slide po. Damage to our local roads and bridges. 987 million plus 2,677,065,732.29, or a total of 3,664,065,732.29. Sa damages pa lang po yan. Next slide po. Okay po. O yun, yung mga bridge namin talagang walop. Next po. Those are the pictures. This one in the middle, the baba na picture, yun yung Maharlika Highway na at the moment, di po namin pinapagamit ng commuters at saka lahat ng vehicles except yung emergency at saka nagkakarga ng mga essential goods. Next picture, please. Okay, next po. Okay, per LGU. Next po. Actually, hindi pa po lahat ng LGU nagsasubmit ng kanilang mga reports. Kaya may mga blanco pa po doon. Okay, our ways forward, kasi sabi ng guideline, dapat yung immediate assistance or interventions. So, kailangan po namin ang wrong spelling, continuous, not continuous, continuous provision of DSWD family food packs and other forms of assistance such as the ECT, the AIX perhaps. We also need continued technical and funding support from the DPWH. We need also the support from the OCD on food, non-food items, and shelter repair kits. And those coming from the national government, of course, aside from the DSWD, DPWH, DNR po, kasi marami kaming mining sites. So, kailangan po natin tingnan siguro po natin yung mga laws and the permit requirements, etc. Doon naman sa mga LGU, we always conduct tree planting. Pero that's it. Walang monitoring, bihira ang nagmo-monitor. Kaya, kasi tingin namin, immediate talaga yun. Kailangan yung mga tree planting programs. Okay. Next slide po. Okay. We also need to have our roads and bridges repaired and rehabilitated. So, for the roads, we need 2,181,200,000. Sa bridges, we need 2,138,200,000 for the repair and rehabilitation of revetments or the flood control facilities or structures. It's 3,889,065,732.40 or a total of 8,208,465,732.40. These figures we got from our friends from the DPWH. Kasi pinapasubmit po namin sila ng damage ng assessment tsaka costing if and when mari-repair and rehabilitated yung roads, bridges, and revetments namin. Thank you po.
Thank you, Bob. All right. So, yung dito sa ways forward ninyo, it's really continuing assistance from the DSWD. Pero yung assessment sa roads and bridges, we're still hindi pa tapos eh. We still don't know what the bridges siguro are the more critical ones. Of the roads that were closed, which are now how many roads closed and how many are now passable? Bridges, the same question.
Of the roads that we have inventoried, Mr. President, in Davao de Oro, which there are 53 sections along the national roads that were affected. There's only one section that is not being passable right now. It's actually the Mawab section. Although there is an alternate road that is now being used actually. So right now I just instructed our people to start repairing actually the Mawab section of the Daang Maharlika. And I think that's the only section for now that is not passable. All the rest along the national roads in Davao de Oro, it was reported to me that everything is passable except the Mawab section. The bridges, yes, the approaches, there are, along the national roads, there were 4 bridges that were affected severely. And these are actually the abutments that have been washed out, Mr. President. In the meantime, ginawan lang ng paraan para maka-access lang muna yung mga sasakyan. But in the meantime, we are now in the process of doing the engineering design actually to restore actually the washed out approaches, Mr. President. These are along the national roads. But I think, unfortunately, we have not really done the inventory of the local roads for the moment, Mr. President.
Mr. President, if I may say something, sir. Kasi po, while it was mentioned that there is only one section that's not been accessible at the moment, yun po yung Mawab section po. And it was also mentioned that there are alternate routes. Actually po, yung alternate naman po cannot be accessed by the big trucks or the loaded ones. Pwede lang po sa light vehicles. That's why direction or policy po ng DPWH is merong window period na pinapagamit nila yung, yes sir. Kasi forced to, kasi wala talagang ibang madaanan. We tried to request, baka pwedeng madaanan yung Cuevas. It's somewhere in Agusan, going to Laak, which is part of Davao de Oro. Pero initially, I heard that the governor is not amenable kasi parang maliit lang din na road yung sa kanila, baka siguro din masira. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, but we'll have to still assess the damage. Because hindi pa kumpleto ang assessment natin eh. Ongoing pa rin eh.
Yes, sir.
We are still all right, but yung sa sections that are not, basta siyempre the usual thing that we have to look at the main thoroughfares na para makapasok yung tao natin, and besides that matuloy yung yung ginagawa ng tao. They need to be transported from one place to another. I think ongoing naman Rex ang ating support from on the social side.
Yes, Mr. President. Actually, we've been working with the different congressmen, governors, mayors about the family food packs. And later on, Mr. President, I think OCD consolidated our report with them.
Yes, they're going to have one
Yeah,
later on.
it's already there, Mr. President, and we'll also explain later on the other non-food assistance that we're packaging.
Sige, we'll look forward to that. Okay. Okay, is that...
Yeah.
So in addition to the report given by the governor with regards to the bridges, we are also being faced with the challenge of having bridges built by DPWH but located within the provincial roads. And I think technicality will tell us that DPWH could not repair these bridges because it's located within the provincial road. And that is the case in Davao de Oro, where we have a lot of bridges damaged, built by DPWH, but when we discussed this actually yesterday with some officers of the DPWH, we were told that DPWH could not fund the repair of these bridges because these are supposedly to be maintained by the provincial government, which in this case I think is not possible because of the calamity, and the provincial government and the local governments could not also afford the repair. This is actually the case in several of our bridges, sir.
Yeah, but we are already making the design for the approaches, di ba? Na nasira.
That's for the national roads, Mr. President, but these are for the local roads and
Local and
bridges that I'm
provincial.
talking about. In some instances, Mr. President, I think we can avail of some of the uh, under the calamity fund of the NDRRMC. Diba?
That's one way. That's the only way I can think of funding it. Is using the calamity fund. All right, sige. We'll take note of that. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. That's it for now for Davao de Oro. The next will be from the situation with Governor Governor Nino from
Davao Oriental.
Please. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Good afternoon, everyone, to my fellow workers in government. I am Governor Nino Uy. I am the one who replaced the former late Governor Cora Malaniaon. I just would like to give you an update on the effects of shear line and the LPA in Davao Oriental. Our province of Davao Oriental is composed of 11 LGUs, 1 city, and 10 municipalities. We have around 196,000 families, and 131,000 is affected by shear line. I just give you the summary, Mr. President, for the shear line, which occurred as of February 2, 2024, and trough of LPA as of February 6, 2024. So for our affected population, for shear line, we have 131,345. For LPA, 75,243. This is an ongoing progress report from our local government units. For damaged houses, we have 1,616 for shear line and for LPA 932. Partially damaged is 1,266 for shear line and LPA 661. And for totally damaged, 350 and for LPA 271. For casualties, we have 2 during the shear line. One direct death, natabunan po ng lupa, and one was transported sana from one hospital to another, but because of the impassable road, namatay siya sa ambulance. No? So, for injuries, we have 1 volunteer or responder now, a Philippine National Police personnel. Nandyan po siya sa Southern Philippines Medical Center. No? And for shear line, we have 1, and for LPA, we have also 11. For our agriculture, in total, we have around 351,601,712.11 caused by shear line, and for LPA, 44,361,661.30 as submitted by our Provincial Agriculture Office. The breakdown of which for crops, 346,099,32.11 for shear line, and for LPA 37,312,625.30. And for fisheries, only 1 so far have submitted, 1 LGU have submitted the report for our fisheries, 5,343,480 pesos. And for livestock, during po sa shear line, we have 159,200, and during the LPA, 7,049,036 pesos, with a total agriculture damage cost of around 498,739,000 pesos. Next slide, please. So this is the breakdown of the affected population per municipality, Mr. President, for both for shear line and LPA. Next slide. Next slide. Next. Next slide. Yeah, this is naman po for the LPA, which I have summarized already. Next slide, please. Again. Next, please. Next, please. And also, this is the situation now of the water supply. No? Affected din po talaga lahat ng halos ng aming mga water supply, especially in far-flung barangays, especially GDAS, no? Geographically isolated disadvantaged areas barangays. So this is the breakdown of the barangays which water supply is being affected. Next slide, please. So these are some of the photos of the destruction and devastation of the shear line, no, in our different municipalities. The first in Barangay Santa Filomena in Catiil. This is a national road, no, and also in Barangay Maglahos. This is also within the national road. And Barangay Malibago, this is going a road going to the barangay proper, also of municipality of Catiil. And the one at the right bottom, Mr. President, is in Barangay San Alfonso. This is the Catiil River, which we hope that we can provide later on funds for the flood control. Because every time po na tumataas yung tubig, bumabaha, around 8 to 9 barangays ang affected flooding din po. Because on the opposite side, kung nakikita po ninyo, walang flood control. So all of the barangays going to that direction, talagang lubog din po talaga ng baha ng tubig. On top of this river is the Aliwagwag Falls and the Aragon Dam. So medyo mataas din po talaga. Next slide, please. This is the bridge going to one of our tourist destinations, the Corten Falls, located in Barangay Kampawan, Baganga. This is also partially damaged. Ginagawan lang po ng paraan ng ating mga residents para makadaan sila. And also, ito mga landslide tong iba. Next slide, please. This one is, this on my left, on our left, is located in Barangay San Pedro. This is also one of the effects of shear line. Naputol po yung tulay, which isolated several, 4 to 5 sitios in Barangay San Pedro in the municipality of Caraga. So wala pong ibang, mayroon naman pong madadaanan, but it will take 4 to 5 hours para po makapunta sa sitios. So yung mga relief goods po natin, ginagawa na lang po ng paraan. Pag medyo okay na yung tubig, gumagawa tayo yung parang balsa. Pero pag mataas po ay yung hinihila na lang po ng PC ng ating mga rescuer papunta sa kabila. On my right is also in the municipality of Caraga. Okay, next slide. This one is Barangay Kayawan in Manay, provincial road. And also, sa right is from in Barangay Old Macopa, also a provincial road. Next slide, please. Ito naman po is in the municipality of Tarragona, particularly in Barangay Maganda. Itong sa baba po is a national road, Barangay Jubilyar. Ito po yung nakakos ng malaking mobilization ng ating mga tao because for several days hindi po din siya na daanan. But right now, passable naman po siya. At the center is in Barangay Limot, still part connecting the city of Mati and going to one of the barangays of the municipality of Tarragona, which is Barangay Limot. So nasira na po talaga yung bridge niya, naputol. About 1/3 of the bridge ang naputol. So pag medyo mataas na naman tubig, hindi na naman nakakadaan yung mga tao. So may ginagawa kaming alternate road ngayon, pero still, ito talaga yung daanan ng ating mga tao. Sa taas po is Barangay Dadong, Tarragona, also in Tarragona, Barangay Tumuaong. Also a national road. Next slide. Ito naman po yung sa Governor Generoso. Naputol po yung tulay connecting from Barangay Anitap to Barangay Upper Tibanban. So yung mga estudyante po talaga, hindi ngayon nakakapunta doon sa kabila. Mayroon namang alternate road, pero again, medyo malayo. The residents from barangays Sergio Osmeña, Tandang Sora, Anitap will have to pass through the national highway. Lumabas muna sila, then papasok naman papuntang barangay Upper Tibanban. I think si Sec Gatchalian nakikita doon during his visit. Next slide. So the next one is ito po sa San Isidro, sa Purok Kalinaw, no? Ito ding sa Tumaliti going to Purok Kalinaw. And this one po yung pangatlong picture, located at Sitio Tumaliti, Barangay La Union. This is a road going to the World Heritage Site, Mount Hamiguitan Range Wildlife Sanctuary and Natural Science Museum. During the shear line, okay pa po yung isang lane, but during the LPA, wash out na po lahat yan. So, hindi na talaga mapupuntahan ang museum and some communities going to that direction. And also, in Barangay Bitaugan, nasira din po yung flood control. Next slide. Ito po naman sa Lupon, Barangay Cocornon, and Barangay Tagugpo. So, yung mga flood control nasira din po. Slope protection. Next slide. Also, this is in Lupon, in Cocornon also, Barangay Cocornon and New Visayas. Ang New Visayas po is one of our GDAS. Nasira po lang ano nila, yung daanan. Next, please. Okay. So, ito na po yung effects ng trough. As I've said kanina, yung going to the World Heritage Site, ito na po yun. Kung nakita nyo yung shear line, one lane kanina, but now sa LPA, after sa LPA, wala na po talaga, ubos na talaga. So, hindi na madaanan. Next slide, please. Ito naman sa Barangay Magdog. For a couple of days, hindi na daanan during the shear line, inayos ng DPWH. Pero pagdating po ng LPA, ito na pong sa right side ang ano niya, image. Naputol na talaga. But now with the effort of DPWH, I think talagyan ng mga, ano yun, sir? Steel beam. Opo. So, passable na naman siya ngayon. Okay. Next slide. So, ito naman po sa City of Mati, Barangay Dahican, going to our surf capital of the city, no? Sa mga beaches namin. And on the right, ito po, papuntang Barangay Macambol. Unpassable, impassable din po yung Barangay Macambol. Isolated po sila ngayon, no? From the city, going to Barangay Macambol, ang mga relief goods natin, dinadaan na lang natin by water, by sea. Okay. Sa dagat na lang po. Oh. Ito po sa right side because of the landslides. Wala pong ibang madaanan except sa dagat po. Ito pong sa Macambol, aside sa Macambol, this is also going to the 3 barangays of Mati na na-isolate din na pwedeng daanin doon sa Governor Generoso. Buti na lang naayos na po yung Magdog. But for a couple of days, hindi din napuntahan ang 3 barangays of the city of Mati because of the Magdog Bridge. Okay. Next slide. Ito sa Barangay Hubelyar, National Road. Nahulog po yung truck ng DPWH while inaayos sana niya yung yung road. Pero nahulog, no. Bumigay yung yung sa ilalim wala na palang lupa. So, bumigay. So, on my right is Barangay Masipit, which is in Barangay Central, Tarragona. Next slide, please. Ito po naman sa Manay, Municipality of Manay. So, again, sa Barangay Taupanga, ito po ang nasira din yung daanan nila ng mga tao. Next, please. Footbridge po. Ito sa Barangay PM Sobricari, one of our CADTI areas. So, naputol din po yung tulay nila. And in Caraga, this is in Caraga, and also in Barangay Santiago, part of the National Highway, National Road. Next, please. This is in Boston, particularly in Barangay San Jose, Dakong Banwa Bridge. So, hindi na po ngayon pinapadaanan din sa ating mga tao, sa ating mga residents. Next slide, please. So, ito naman po yung mga provincial assets, provincial roads, provincial bridges na nasira. So, anyway, I'll be giving a soft copy of this to everybody naman po, Mr. President. Next slide, please. Sa mga assistance po na na-receive from other sources, from the DSWD, we received 9,822 boxes of family food packs and distributed to several barangays. Tumulong din po ang DICT for our internet connections. Of course, nandyan yung ating Philippine Army, BFP, PNP, Philippine Coast Guard for the search and rescue operations. And of course, our 1st and 2nd District DPWH Engineering Office. One of our volunteers, an NGO, Braces, have also provided personnel to help us, to include Philippine Red Cross and DOH. Next, please. For our ways forward, of course, after this, we will be requesting PIDANA from our OCD to really assess and evaluate the area and the entire destruction and damage of the province of Davao Oriental for the post-disaster needs assessment. We also would like to ask for a continuous provision of emergency shelter from our agencies, particularly from, I think, from DSWD. Tumawag na po si Secretary Gatchalian through SAP Lagdameo upon the order of the President to help us out. Provision of food items and non-food items to affected families, provision of medicines and other health services, provision of mental health and psychosocial support program, provision of early recovery livelihood programs, and improvement and rehabilitation of our water systems. Next slide, please. Provision of long-term livelihood projects, construction, improvement, and rehabilitation of damaged roads and bridges. Ito po siguro talaga yung malaki-laki na kakailanganan natin ng budget. Construction improvement and rehab of flood controls, construction improvement and rehab of slope protection, construction of safe and resilient transitional housing to relocation sites, construction improvement and rehabilitation of power lines. As of now, lahat po naman ng aming mga bayan, our towns are may kuryente naman po, except for a few barangays. Next slide, please. Construction of evacuation centers. Right now, of the 11 LGUs in Davao Oriental, 9 have already evacuation centers. Mati is already in the process. And yung wala po is yung municipality of Banay-Banay. Buti na lang po yung Banay-Banay medyo, of the 11, medyo hindi po masyado affected, though meron din pagbabaha, pero hindi po masyado unlike the other municipalities. Rechanneling of riverways, relocation of families living along landslide and flood-prone areas, repair, construction, and rehabilitation of damaged school facilities, provision of teaching and learning facilities, and ito, request for hazard pay of our disaster risk reduction and management workers. Kasi kawawa din po yung ating mga responders. Kailangan din po nila ng at least tulong because they are also risking their life, no? Especially during these eventualities. Next slide, please. I think that would be all, Mr. President. Thank you very much for this opportunity and good afternoon once again.
Okay, so, well, ang laki ng damage. Roads and bridges yata ang pinaka problema sa inyo. Well, we'll be undertaking all of this anyway, as a matter of course. Yung pag-aaralan na naman natin yung mga slope protection kasi nagbago nga ang weather patterns. So, we have to look at again and see kung tama yung mga flood control natin. If they're in the right place, if they're big enough, kung ano nangyari, bakit na yung iba na erode, masyado malaki ang tubig. We have to adjust to the new normal. But all of this is ongoing already. At least yung needs assessment muna.
Yes, yeah.
Kasi hindi pa tayo tapos dun eh. We're not yet there. Nagbabago pa rin ang sitwasyon eh. So we'll have to wait until more or less masabi natin tapos ang event. But all of this is ready to be ready as soon as we are able to go in and actually do the work. Oh, all right. Okay, so that's the situation sa...
Mr. President,
Yes, yes.
tulad po ng sinabi ni Congresswoman Maricar, yung problema lang po namin, one is yung outside the National Highway. Kasi kung titingnan ninyo yung damage, especially in Davao Oriental, karamihan no is mga bridges, yung malaking damage namin. So,
Puro nasa provincial.
nasa provincial po, nasa barangay road, wala namang capacity yung LGU na pwedeng i-reconstruct or i-repair yung ganong kalaking damage po. Thank you po.
Yeah, same problem. But si Sekdibo will talk about that when at the end of the maybe meron yata we have some ideas on how to remedy that situation. Okay, now
Mr. President?
we'll get the situation.
Sorry, if I may just add just a
Go
teeny
ahead,
tiny also.
Don't be...
Governor Nino Uy provided the figures for the damages on the provincial assets, but as what he has also presented, it also included as well the national assets, which I think, if I'm not mistaken, Secretary has a rough estimate of how much, but it would be no less than 1.5 billion as well, at least on District 2 alone, and in District 1, around the same number as well, Mr. President. But so far, as to at least continuing the daily lives of our constituents there, Secretary Rex Gatchalian was kind enough also to go with us to visit, and so far the relief efforts have been very fruitful. And we really thank DSWD and Sec Rex for that one, along with the continuous efforts of the province LGU as well. But I think
We
that one-
really are still at that point that we still, that we will, that's as much as we can do for now, is to provide shelter and support for those who have been displaced. All of the other damages will still have to be assessed. And then we will then have to make a plan, get it funded. Now, the problem now with the provincial road bridges, again, Sekdibo, I think, has some ideas on that, so we'll listen to him afterwards. Okay, so thank you. The next situation briefing will be for Davao del Norte.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mr. President, and to all the cabinet secretaries, as well as to fellow government workers. Unang-una, Mr. President, maraming salamat po sa pagpunta dito at personally pagdinig sa aming concern po dito sa Davao Region. So here is the situational report for Davao del Norte. First is the effects of the shear line weather system on the second week of January 2020-24. Next slide, please. So it brought heavy rainfall and flash flood in our province. We declared a state of calamity last January 19, 2020-24. Next slide, please. Summary report of the shear line weather system. Affected population is 89,941 families. Damage to agriculture is 200 million. Damage to infrastructure is 1.1 billion, with 7 affected local government units. Next slide, please. Effects of the trough of low pressure area, first week of February 2020-24. Next slide, please. More widespread flooding and landslide incidents affecting more local government units and constituents in Davao del Norte. Next slide, please. Summary report of the trough of LPA. Affected population rose to 170,707 families, 1 missing individual due to drowning, 8 casualties because of landslide and drowning. partial damage loss to agriculture is 44 million. Partial damage to infrastructure is 111 million. Increase in number of affected LGUs and barangays. Next slide, please. So this is the summary of cost of damages. For agriculture, it's 244 million. For infrastructure, it's 1.2 billion. Next slide, please. So these are some photos, Mr. President. I would like to emphasize this first photo because this is the Daang Maharlika Highway. This is our national highway. And it brought a standstill for 4 days. 4 days. And hindi po madadaanan ng kahit anong vehicle going from Davao going north. So, yung other bypass road po, papunta ng north, flooded din po. So, ine-emphasize po namin ito, it's because malaki po yung effect nito, the economy and delivery of relief goods to the other provinces, specifically Davao de Oro and Davao Oriental. Next slide, please. Ito po, sample picture of the Daang Maharlika Highway. Next slide. So this is from the municipality of Carmen, the municipal gym, which used to be an evacuation center. Ngayon, pumasok po yung tubig. Next slide, please. Sample also of the Daang Maharlika Highway. Next slide, please. Tagum City, 1 barangay. Dati hindi inaabutan ng flood, ngayon abutan po. Next slide, please. From the municipality of Duhali, sample pictures. Next slide, please. And this one is school, isang sample ng school po, eskwelahan. Marami po kaming eskwelahan doon na totally flooded po. And nakita nyo po, sample po yan, wala kaming evacuation centers. Kasi yung school gyms, kahit ang mga barangay gyms, flooded. So nasa daan po sila, nagtatrapa lang po. Diyan po.
Andyan sila na
Nag-evacuate po sa mga daan po. Yes po.
hindi rin pwede yung eskwelahan.
Yes po. This is the situation for 3 municipalities, Asuncion, Duhali, and Carmen. More or less 80% po na submerge yung barangays po.
How many persons are under yung ganyang klaseng shelter?
Madami po, Mr. President.
What's the anong bilang? Do we have a count?
Number of evacuees, Mr. President.
Oh, I guess you can call them
Go.
evacuees. So, well, more importantly, yung wala sa evacuation center.
Yes po, kasi yung count po namin sa evacuees na sa evacuation center pero hindi na po namin na-count po yung nandyan na po sa daan po.
Sa labas.
Yes po. Yes
Do you
po.
have a number? Yes.
Mr. President, ito galing rin to sa
Yes,
province. But this is as of, I think, last night.
Yes.
Sa Davao del Norte, the number of families inside evacuation centers, 3,050.
Okay.
And then those that are outside, mas marami ho, Mr. President, 51,041. Kasi dahil nag-state of calamity na, I think lahat na
Yes,
sila
po.
considered na victim. So they can't differentiate na kung nasa kalsada o nasa loob pa ng bahay nila. Yeah, I'm sure.
Yes, Secretary. Oo.
What do we do with this?
May-
Dapat prioritize because they cannot stay there for much longer.
I have a recommendation in the ways forward po,
Oh,
Mr.
sige, we'll
President.
wait for that. All right.
Yes
keep
po.
going.
Okay. So next slide, please. So amount of assistance received from DSWD and other sources, OVP 2769 relief packs, OCD 11 400 packs, hygiene kits and malong. From DSWD 91,636 food and non-food items. Next slide, please. Ito po yung sinabi ko, Mr. President. Maraming salamat po sa ECT. Actually, ito po yung initially na na-approve po sa Secretary for 70,000 beneficiaries at close to 700 million. Nag-start na po yung implementation kahapon po and ongoing po today. But unfortunately, the 70,000 count was during the shear line. So we have this additional request for ECT payout for the remaining 100,000 families po. Opo. Opo. Sana po.
Ang dami
Sana po.
nadagdagan, ano?
Opo. Next slide, please. So, ways forward. Immediate assistance needed for repair, rehabilitation of roads, bridges, and dikes. So, ang nilagay lang po namin sa for immediate action is yung mga major rivers which caused the flooding either because it was damaged or needs rehabilitation. So, eto po, rehabilitation of Iho River, flood control, rehabilitation of Saog River, flood control. Next slide, please. Rehabilitation of Barangay Kabaywa to Barangay Del Pilar Road. Daang Maharlika, Tagum City section, nag-scar po yung tawag nito, National Highway. Next slide, please. Rehabilitation of Lasang River, flood control. Rehabilitation of Tagum Libuganon River, flood control. Next slide, please. Rehabilitation of Earth Dike along Tagum Libuganon, Tumas, and BE Duhali River. Rehabilitation of dikes Hadpudon River. Next slide, please. Construction of flood mitigation structure, location Talomo, Salvacion, Esperanza, and upgrading of dike along Tagum Libuganon River, Mabaos, Guadalupe section. Next slide, please. So, other infrastructure needs. Ito po yung kanina, Mr. President. We would like to request elevated barangay or school gyms as evacuation that would serve as evacuation centers. Why elevated po? It's because kung maghihingi po kami ng evacuation center, minsan ang problema sa ibang barangay, kulang po yung public land na paglalagyan po natin kung saan po. So, one of the options for now, i-elevate na lang po sana muna yung mga gyms and or barangay gyms, kung saan yung mga areas na totally submerged po yung barangay. Next slide, please. Other immediate needs, shelter assistance. We have yet to finalize the count po, kami ni Gov. Then, totally damaged. These are the figures that we need. And agriculture assistance, Mr. President, we have thousands of hectares affected by the flooding. Rice, corn, vegetable, banana farmers. If we could request for inputs amounting to 12,000 per hectare for fish pond operators, owners, fingerlings and other inputs, 15,000 pesos per hectare, and local backyard livestock raisers, 20,000 peso per raiser. Next slide, please. Other immediate needs during the flooding, bigla po naputol yung mga water supply. So, we would like to request for this LGUs, water tankers for potable water transportation. Next slide, please. And other immediate needs, rubber boat for rescue operations. We only included these 6 LGUs municipalities because yung calamity fund po nila maliliit lang po talaga. Although meron silang mga rescue equipment, pero hindi po talaga, kulang na po talaga during that incident. Next slide, please. Yun. For medium and long-term projects, we will submit it to different government agencies po. So again, Mr. President, ang number 1 ko lang po i-emphasize yung Daang Maharlika sa Carmen side po. Kasi maapektuhan po yung whole economy po natin going north. So, kailangan po may medium or short-term medium solution. Although, I think initially the DPWH already has a solution, Mr. President.
All right. Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. I'm a little concerned about those kasi nga nabaha yung evacuation center na kung saan-saan na lang napadpad. We have to do something extra for them. Kasi, pero ang hirap hanapin. And then, saan natin talaga ilalagay? But at least, at the very least, makareceive sila ng assistance. So, they're being extended,
Mr. President, as the Vice Governor said, we of all the provinces, sila yung nauna nakasubmit ng list. So we were paying out na as of yesterday, and we'll continue paying out. As Vice, siguro I'll just sit down with you, the Governor, and si Kong about the additional ECT emergency cash
Yeah.
plan
How
for
do you
requirement.
handle that though? Because madali yung evacuation center, pupuntahan mo lang. Pero itong ganito, ibang klaseng problema ito.
Although, Mr. President, bumaba na po yung water levels this time. So, magsischedule na lang po kami per area po. Kaya nga po, yung aside from the ECT, nag-request po kami ng shelter assistance is because pagbalik nila sa mga bahay nila, Mr. President, sira po talaga. So, maybe additional financial assistance po from the SWD would be of big help to them, Mr. President.
Okay. Well, ongoing naman talaga yan. That's the first, yun ang una natin. Well, ang una natin binibigay of food packs. And then after that, pag na-identify na natin yung mga naging victim, we provide the ECT. Okay.
Mr. President, dagdag ko lang po, yung mga estudyante, basa po lahat yung gamit nila sa eskwelahan. Kailangan po yun, yung mga school things po nila, at saka bags.
Mr. President, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
If I may propose, in terms of the site selection for evacuation centers and the architecture of the evacuation centers po, DOST has a platform called Hazard Hunter PH. And on that platform po, all the hazards are overlaid on the specific areas po ng lahat ng probinsya po. Hanggang barangay po yun, in terms of site selection for the safest possible site for a possible evacuation center. At saka po dun sa design po natin sa evacuation center, elevated po talaga sana. Pero po, ang first floor, dapat po walang mga exterior walls.
Okay.
Kasi po kung dadaloy talagang tubig, makakadaan po yung tubig at safe pa rin po yung second floor. So there are already designs po that are adapted to flood-prone areas that require evacuation. And I think that DOST can help, and DNR can also help on the site selection for the safest possible. All these areas, Mr. President, are really flood and landslide prone. So we have to make the best.
That's one part. But we also upgraded our building code for the evacuation centers. So we have to take that into account too. All right, but the immediate need of those that are still displaced, that's where we are now. So we'll make sure that that's ongoing.
Report na bit, Mr. President.
Yeah, go ahead.
Pagtapos na ho.
Oh yeah, I know you have a report afterwards. All right. So we will listen now to the report from Davao Occidental.
Thank you, Mr. President.
We'll
Thank you.
provide- Thank you. Thank you. See.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. I am Harry Chester Camoro, the PDRRMO of Davao Occidental. With me is Attorney Geoffrey Navarra, our Provincial Administrator. For the information of everyone, since last quarter of 2023, we were visited by two major earthquakes, the 6.4 and 7.3 in Surigao and in Davao Occidental. And since then, last December 6, 2023, we have declared the province under the state of calamity. And until now, we have not lifted that declaration under the state of calamity since last January. Next slide, please. Last January, we were visited by weather disturbance. Next slide, please. Like the easterlies, no? Usually kasi the southern part of the Philippines, like Davao Occidental, which have 5 municipalities and 105 barangays, we have one island municipality, the municipality of Sarangani and the Balut Island. So usually po, pag may mga easterlies po, malalakas po talaga ang alon and bringing, good afternoon, Madam Vice President.
Hi, welcome.
So the effects of these easterlies brings us to more evacuees, no, in our evacuation centers. Usually po, mga municipal gyms lang po ang ginagamit namin together with DSWD and other line agencies po in helping them during evacuation. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Also, Mr. President, we have also this program, the Disaster Risk Reduction Management in Health, wherein mostly doctors po usually with the Office of the Disaster usually work hand in hand during disasters. Next slide, please. So these are pictures now showing to you the effects of this weather condition, like most of our barangay bridges, and major bridges po connecting inter-barangays and municipalities were damaged. Next slide, please. Ito po yung situations po in our barangays which are flooded. Next slide, please.
Kailan yan? When were these pictures?
Last January, taken last January, so before the shear line and the LPA po. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay. Shown to you is one of the major damage po. Ito yung pong approach ng bridge namin connecting two barangays, the barangays in Malita, Davao Occidental. Next slide, please. These are some aerial pictures of our river system, in affecting the population area of Davao Occidental, Malita. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So after that, next slide, please. Next slide, please. So ito po yung effects ng shear line and the LPA. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So mostly of the two weather system, ito po yung affected areas like the municipality of Santa Maria, municipality of Malita, and municipality of Don Marcilio, which we incurred 3 deaths. Most of them were recovered already. 2 were from drowning and 1 nadaganan po ng niyog, puno ng niyog. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So as of today, Mr. President, yung major one bridge po namin hindi pa na-repair, hindi pa din po na madaanan. So always forward for the province of Davao Occidental, we may ask the NDRRMC and the Office of the President to help us in the rehabilitation of all our affected roads, bridges, and other critical infrastructures like flood controls. We have also incurred damage on some of our barangay centers, like the barangay halls in part of Jose Abad Santos that were damaged during the earthquake. And also, we would like to ask the Office of the President if we could help us, sir, build more evacuation centers designed by NDRRMC, since the 5 municipalities in Davao Occidental has only 2 major evacuation centers given by the NDRRMC po. So we are asking, sir, for your help. If we could build 1 major evacuation center for the island municipality of Sarangani and Balot, and in Jose Abad Santos and Santa Maria po. That's all, Mr. President.
Okay, I was just talking to Sec about the evacuation centers na kailangan natin itayo. Because these are, again, like we were discussing over lunch, these are new areas that are being affected that were not really affected before. So anyway, it seems to be, we seem to be in the same general situation here, that we are still taking care of the evacuees. And although this rehabilitation of affected bridges, roads, and infrastructure will have to be assessed. That assessment will be done as soon as it's siguro yung critical, yung buksan natin para yung mga areas na hindi madalhan ng relief goods, na hindi madalhan ng mga equipment, na kung ano yung mga kailangan. Yun ang munang unahin natin. Just get them to, para passable man lang, para makadaan yung mga responders natin. Let's do that first, no? And then ongoing na naman ito. Yan is the same problem yung sa bridges, roads, and general infra. But the process is pagka mag-a-assess pa yung public works kung ano ba talaga ang damage, then they will have to design the remedy. Kung ano yung pwedeng gawin, kung minsan talagang hindi na kaya, we'll have to build another bridge. So we don't know how to do. We'll still have to see which ones will be in that. Which ones are in that condition. Okay, and then there was a comment about the schools na nalubog. Lahat ng gamit nasira. Lahat ng gamit ng mga bata, yeah, diba? Yeah, may equipment ng eskwelahan, things like that. So anyway, we will pagka meron na tayong numbers para alam natin kung saan ang kailangan, we will use the DepEd, and then siyempre the calamity funds again will be availed of. Yeah.
Mr. President, ano po, sa situation po ng Davao del Norte, halos po lahat ng mga bahay is affected po sa baha. So yung mga gamit ng mga bata, kasama po doon na nasisira
Okay.
po.
Well, nandito si Vice President, so she will, I'm sure yung mga ano natin, mga DepEd natin will be able to tell us what we need to, kung ano yung mga kailangan palitan. All right, we will move on now to Davao City. The report in Davao City will be Mr. Bustillo.
Yes, good afternoon po sa lahat. To our Vice President Inday and President Bongbong. For the Davao City situational report, well, Davao City was not exempted with the recent weather disturbance. In January 18, Davao City was affected with the shear line weather disturbance. And with that, we experienced flooding for the 14 barangay, with the total families affected to 1,486, with a total population of 5,531. And along with that, with the disturbance, mass wasting was also experienced in some barangay in our Davao City. And 4 of those barangay experienced mass wasting or landslide, and with 20 families affected and 37 individuals affected total. And we have, sad to note, we had 2 casualty during that mass wasting brought about by shoreline. And during that weather disturbance, Davao City was not totally impaired in terms of its population, basically because we were able to prepare and brought our those people considered at rest, brought to the safe evacuation and temporary shelter. So that was our affected population for the shear line with disturbance happened in January 19. Next slide, please. And this is the photo documentation of that shear line. So we experienced flooding. All of the river system in Davao City caused to swell to critical level. And we also experienced street flooding at Laberna subdivision that impaired our transportation, and some mass wasting, particularly in the upland area of Davao City, in Marilog proper, and also in the Meadows area in Catalonia Grande. So ito yung po mga impact nating shoreline weather disturbance. Next slide, please. But on January 31, just recently, the trap of low pressure area really impacted Davao City. So with that, with the summary of affected population for the flooding, we had affected a total number of population 155,564. For the mass wasting or landslide, we have a number of population affected into 1,208. All in all, we had 156,772 affected population brought about by the trap of low pressure area that was started in January 18 and persistent and within 3 days of that kind of weather disturbance. Next slide, please. So with that flooding incident that we had, that trap low pressure area bring so much rain, 16 barangay is affected with that trap of low pressure area, with the total number of families affected into 37,743, or with the total number of population affected, 155,564. And next slide, please. For the mass wasting, it increased the number of barangay affected with the mass wasting. So, because of that, so much heavy downpour, continuous downpour affecting Davao City, 7 barangays are experiencing mass wasting incidents, with the total number of families affected 276, and with the total number of population affected 1,208. Next slide. So with that situation, based on our initial assessment with the ADAN that we conducted together with other offices, we able to find out with our assessment that there is a need to declare some barangay into the state of calamity. So just recently, just yesterday, 26 barangays that is considered affected with this trap of low pressure area was declared under the state of calamity, so that we can access the quick response fund, that we can also give immediate assistance to our affected communities. Aside from for this calamity fund, the city government is continues to provide those displaced community, both non-food and non-food items, to alleviate their situation. Next slide, please. So ito po yung sitwasyon namin. One of the biggest impact that trap of low pressure area is the Davao River. If you can see the Davao River, so there is a massive flooding affecting several communities along the line, the streets of Davao River. So that is the Jid Valley, this is the Waan, and this along Davao River. This is after 2 days of the flooding. So if you can imagine, after 2 days, we already experienced hot sunny days, but still some areas of those within along Davao River still inundated with flood water, and it's reached as much as the second floor of houses, particularly in Jid Valley. Next slide, please. And also, a massive mass wasting was experienced to the different parts of Davao City, particularly the upland parts of Davao City, like in Barangay Tambubong, Barangay Lamanan, Barangay Saloy, and Barangay Marulog proper. And the good news about this, in fact, we have this experience, this mass wasting, but however, with the direct collaboration with the people on the barangay, with the BDRMC, we able to remain a zero casualty despite of this incident happening in Davao City. Next slide, please. So for the ways forward, considering that Davao City is considered as one of the hazards that we identified in Davao City is more on flooding. So we have ongoing, with the city government, ongoing collaboration with the Japanese government, to the JICA, about the study of Davao River to formulate integrated flood control master plan. And I believe it's almost done. And along with that plan is the structural measures in Davao River, that one of the plan is to dredge from river of Davao River mouth 23 kilometers from the mouth of Davao River with a 23-kilometer streets, because as per observation, Davao River right now is very silted, and we also look at that as one of the source enhanced flooding within that area. And also there was a proposal from the expert of this flood control master plan to do some cut-off works and to establish retarding ponds and to widen the Bolton Bridge from the mouth of Davao River 4 kilometers going inland to Bolton Bridge. That was the proposal of our Japanese experts in order for us to mitigate or reduce the impact of flooding. And all of these things, I believe, this together with the DPW's proposal. So I believe this would become part of the priority projects in the future for Davao River. Next slide, please. And another thing that we are looking forward is to upgrade our drainage system in Davao City. With that, again, part of the master plan that are being crafted together with the DPWs and all other experts and all other concerned offices of the city government, upgrading of drainage system was now on the way in order for us to, again, to increase the carrying capacity, the water carrying capacity of our drainage system so that we can reduce or minimize or mitigate the impact of flooding, particularly in our urban area. And then we have this constant coordination with DPWH. And last January 5, our Honorable Mayor Sebastian Duterte wrote a letter to our DPWH with a particular emphasis on the projects for the alleviation of flooding and traffic congestion within Davao City. And again, also for the improvement and creation of suitable drainage systems all over the city. And provision and ample budgeting for right-of-way acquisition to allow for a more active transport environment in the city. So that is the content of the letter.
Is this inventory and upgrading included in the JICA study?
Yes, Mr. President. This proposal is in complement with the findings of our JICA study po. Okay. Next slide, please.
Tapos na yung study?
I think on the, kung ano po, Mr. President, parang patapos na po.
Okay.
It's more on the putting budget on that particular proposal. Next slide, please. So ito po yung sulat naming alkalde last January 5, addressed to our Secretary of the DPWH. So yun po, we hope and pray that this would be, can be taken into consideration so that we believe that it can address some flooding we experience in Davao City. Next slide, please. That's all po, Mr. President. Salamat po, mayang hapon.
Well, I did note the letter that you wrote to Secmani. We need to wait for the study before we can do anything kasi we have to make sure na nasa tamang lugar yung gagawin natin. So we'll look for that. Again, I don't think the city is as much affected in terms of connectivity, yung mga main thoroughfares. So that's not we do not have that immediate problem as we have in the other provinces. Pero tutukan natin yung JICA study para maybe Sec Tony, you can help us with that because that also falls under DNR. The JICA study for the flooding and drainage of the city, Davao City.
Yes, sir. We'll work very closely with DPWH, sir, on this one.
Maybe you can ask JICA what the status of it is, so that we know where we stand and when we can start moving.
Mr. President, the study is almost complete and...
You're aware of the...
Yes, Mr. President, this is an undertaking of the Department of Public Works and Highways.
Okay.
Under our foreign assisted program, Mr. President.
All right. Okay. All right. Now, the next report will be coming from the OCD. The regional director. Maybe you want to jump in here at some point. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am Ednar Dayan Hirang, the regional director. Mr. President, the local governments have spoken as to the damages in their infrastructure and the others. I do not wish to balikin po yon. I would like to focus, next please, on the assistance provided by the government. So, next please. Next. So, ito po yung mga, the government has already provided 190 million pesos of assistance from DSWD, the LGUs, and the Office of Civil Defense, composed of family food packs, family kits, modular tents, sleeping kits, hygiene kits, malong, family packs, blankets, jerry cans, and recently our CDA Administrator Ariel Pomoseno has approved 15,000 bags of rice, 50 kilos bags of rice for disposal po. Kasi yung family food packs na binigay ng DSWD has to be sustained. Kasi yung mga victims has to work, to go back to their job. So kailangan dagdag ng bigas po. So 4,000, in fact, 4,000 of bags of rice is now ready for delivery, for withdrawal po sa NFA warehouses. Next. So as mentioned, of the almost 1 million people affected, 1/3 pa lang ang nabibigyan. Yeah, 1/3 pa lang ang nabibigyan ng tulong. So as discussed earlier, more and more will be coming. This is as recorded by the Office of Civil Defense. So almost 1 million, then ang nabigyan po 329,000 people pa lang. So next. Yeah, these are the types of other items that we gave, as mentioned, the rice, canned goods, blankets, family packs, and others. Next. So the response cluster, the immediate response cluster headed by DSWD has already given a lot, or has already started giving the support to our people po. For the health cluster members, nagbigay na rin po sila ng mga jerry cans, chlorine granules, and assorted medicines, boots, and raincoats. Next. Next, please. Okay. Based po dun sa, as mentioned, yung mga infrastructure damages po will have to go through the post-disaster needs assessment, the PDENA, for a more detailed assessment to mga reported damages. And I would like to recommend, Mr. President, that the OCD will consolidate all this into a regional rehabilitation plan that would be funded by existing budget of the government this year, and I recommend a legislated budget starting next year and continuing. Hindi naman po kaya natin lahatin ito in one period. A legislated budget may be good for all sectors na po, agriculture, infrastructure, health, and the others. Kasi nakita po natin na halos lahat ng LGUs ng region are in need of this funds. So I would recommend a current budget utilization plus the legislated budget for rehabilitation starting next year po. So next. Next, please. Next. Tapos na yan. Next. Okay. I'd like to mention, Mr. President, yung OCD po is in charge of the mobilizing the response of the immediate response during disaster. And I think it's noteworthy to explain that konti lang po ang, in spite of the damage na nangyari at the calamities na nangyari, no? Yung ating mga local government po, yung kanilang forced evacuation, preemptive evacuation has worked well. Kaya makita natin, five disasters na po nangyari, 2 earthquakes, 1 tropical storm, shear line, plus the trough po. If you account the people dead, or well, we do not wish more people to die, but yun po yung data natin, pakunti po yung data natin, because our local government in terms of response, I think, are now efficient and effective. Ang kulang po natin more on prevention and mitigation, and the rehab and recovery aspect po ng ating disaster resiliency program under Republic Act 10121 po.
Very good. Thank you. There seems to be that common thread, ano? That although the sector we're talking about mitigation, but we have to make the studies, because the common theme that we get from the LGUs, not only here, but every time there's a disaster anywhere in the Philippines, that it happens in a different place now. The flooding happens in a different place. The landslides happen in a different place from where they usually do. So the governors, they try to plan. We're kapos no, alam na namin yan. We'll send it here to this barangay, to that town, to that ano. Tapos iba naman ang pupuntahan ng tubig. So that's the kind of, so we So as to maximize the funding that we will provide, we really have to figure out how these things, how things have changed. I don't think that's going to be too easy, but that we should get a start on it, so that the obvious ones we can already start doing something about.
Yes, sir. If I may, sir, we do have an assessment called the Climate and Disaster Risk Assessment that can be done provincially and regionally. The CIDRA is a known tool. We don't know how many provinces are actually using it, but there are a few already doing climate and disaster risk assessment as a basis for the budget for prevention as well as anticipatory action for rehabilitation recovery. Sir, the OST is very material here because it is the climate projections based on the data from the OST plus the multiple hazard analysis that combines earthquakes as well as other types of hazards. And we're here po to assist in terms of the climate and disaster risk assessment. We can provide that training and as in partnership with DOST and OCD, sir.
And remember what we were discussing the other day. Maybe we can get help as well from some funding from international institutions, because it's clearly very much an effect of climate change, and we can hope. Let's try to access those resources. Meron naman, I think meron yan eh. It's just a question of going to them and explaining to them we still have to bear the largest part of the load, the government, naturally, but that can be of help to us pag meron tayong assistance sa mga foreign funding institutions.
Yes, sir. And we do have some provinces already enrolled in some of these foreign assistance.
Yeah.
We will just determine, sir, in terms of the region, how many are actually part of the existing foreign assisted, and we can also apply for further assistance from other partners, sir.
Marami namang foreign assistance, but I'm talking not only in funding, also the technical.
Yes, sir.
So,
Yes, sir.
Because they bring the experts from international, the best people for the effects of climate change mitigation. We should try and I think that they will be very interested to see how it's playing out here in the Philippines.
Yes, sir. Particularly for Mindanao, sir, there's great interest. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Okay.
Sir, with the problem of the nationally constructed bridges and provincial
sige
roads,
nga. Let's see what
we can access the NDRIM fund for it. We'll just have to change our resolutions because initially they were made to assist 4th, 5th, and 6th class municipalities. And then 1st, 2nd, and 3rd class municipalities have some participation. But nonetheless, the NDRIM fund is necessary here because these regulations were made prior to the type of calamities that we see
we're
now.
facing.
So we'll just make an emergency NDRIMC full council meeting in order to redraft the resolution. And we'll work with the DPWH in order to assess, Mr. President, the immediate connectivity needs and then the other connectivity needs. Because Secretary Bunuan and I were talking earlier in the helicopter that the areas that were inundated and the infrastructures there should not be there anymore because they will continue to be affected by landslides and flooding. So it will also need relocation of communities, which as evidenced by the current calamities need to be done. So we will work together with DPWH, our regional OCDs, and the LGU, sir, so that the immediate
are going to be the ones who are going to be the best source of
yes, sir.
information, as usual. We are familiar with local conditions, but again, on the funding side,
Yes, sir, we can.
if we can, well, some of these bridges are not even provincial. Yung nakita natin, maliliit lang,
Yun, sir, they're
may
footbridges.
iba.
Eh.
Oo.
Opo.
Pero kailangan ng tao yan eh.
Opo, eh.
Ginagamit nila yan eh. So those are the relatively quick fixes
Yes.
are the smaller ones. But yung mga dinadaanan na ng truck, whatever it is, whether they are from whether they are national road or provincial road or municipal, yun ang kailangan natin tignan because that's the flow of commerce. And for our immediate needs na nga, that we have to be able to access those areas.
There's also a logistical effort, Mr. President, on our part, spearheaded by the armed forces and with the PNP. Aside from the land assets of the Philippine Army that are here, we have devoted 6 helicopters for airlift and 2 naval vessels, Mr. President, to attend to this, and we can deploy more as necessary. Thank you, Mr. President. And Sec. Benher has an intervention, sir.
Okay,
Yeah.
Sec. Benher, yes.
Yeah, Mr. President, on the part of the ALG, the Bureau of Fire and the PNP is also helping our LGUs. And likewise, I was listening, and the problem is the drinking water. And it's quite difficult to reach them because of the bridges that were destroyed. But we've got this backpack portable. I just called up MMDA, and they're more than willing to send their teams here, Mr. President, as soon as to help our LGUs. And likewise, tama po si Mr. Dayang Hirang, magagaling po ang ating mga governors, ang ating mga mayors because of the upland list that we have, the checklist on the ground. At kaya medyo nabawasan po talaga. Maski na grabe ang damage, halos yung fatality, yung konti. So I would like to congratulate really the executives.
If there is
Thank
any
you.
good news in this, it's that the quick action, quick response of the local governments has minimized the casualty rate. Although, having said that, yung infrastructure na damage talagang malaki. There's agricultural damage as well, but the more difficult one to fix will be the infrastructure damage. The bridges, the approaches, the roads, all of this infrastructure that we have seen. That kasi naman it was built, hindi dinadaanan ng bagyo, hindi dinadaanan ng tubig dati yan eh. Kaya it was built to the conditions that existed before. Nagbago nga eh. So that's why we'll have to redesign everything and make sure that if it happens again, medyo mas matibay na yung ating mga gagawin. All right. Okay, yes.
I was supposed to do the response, but luckily nasalo na ako ng OCD. My presentation's already been vended into their presentation. But Mr. President, 3 things na paulit-ulit ko kasi sa ways forward ng mga governors and yung family food packs. And based on your instruction, lagi yun yung priority. Nandun na ho kanina to. That's the disaggregated data of how much family food packs we've released. This one's dated yesterday, but kanina, as of the presentation, it's close to 250,000 family food packs just for this region. Admittedly, Mr. President, it's one of the larger releases natin, but we have more in the warehouse and more is coming in. And based on your instructions, now we'll keep on sustaining it. So one way or another, we've communicated to the governors, the congressional representations, the mayors, that they can lodge the request sa regional office. We still have stocks and we'll continue doing so. Mr. President, also, I'd like to mention that over the weekend, tama si Sec. Gibo, the Air Force and the Navy have been moving our goods from one point to another. In fact, doon sa kina Kong Chino and General Generoso, it was the Navy that brought the family food packs. And then doon, Gov, sa couple of towns in Caraga, it was airlifted by the choppers ng Black Hawks ng Air Force. And they'll continue doing so. We still have the goods, so we'll continue moving that, Mr. President. Number 2, Mr. President, the mention of the emergency cash transfer,
Yes.
which we've also instructed na people will have to move from food to cash.
Yes.
So as mentioned, the Davao del Norte group has already submitted their list. We initiated the payout yesterday. But may dagdag pala, so we'll just wait for the listing ulit. I think the provincial government and si Kong Duhali has been very active in scouring the area and giving us the list. We've already made representation and spoken to the congressional representatives, the governors, about the other provinces na sana mabigay na yung list so we can start doing the payout. So we can transition from food to cash. Kasi you always say nga na, Mr. President, na hindi lahat ng kailangan nila matatagpuan doon sa kahon.
Exactly.
Also, based on our discussions, they really need the cash because nga some of them may not have been affected physically yung bahay, but yung livelihood, hindi nakapag-ngisda, hindi nakapagsaka. So, I think we've already squared off with almost everybody in the table privately, one way or another, over the week na if they can send the list over, we can immediately download the cash sa regional office namin and initiate the payouts. We're also adding more special disbursing officers para simultaneous sa iba-ibang mga probinsya. And last, Mr. President, the next slide, the more important slide that I've been tasked to read, yung sa Office of the Presidential Assistance.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Mr. President, I was tasked by your office to go through this list. So for the information of the governors and the affected LGUs, on top of the emergency cash transfer, hiwalay huto, our President has authorized the release from his Presidential Social Fund a total amount of 265 million. And the breakdown is are as follows. The province of Davao del Norte will get 30 million. The province of Davao Oriental will get 30 million. The province of Agusan del Sur will get 30 million. The province of Davao de Oro will get 30 million. The province of Surigao del Sur will get 25 million. The province of Maguindanao del Sur, 25 million. Davao City, 20 million. Butuan City, 20 million. Province of Davao Occidental, 20 million. The province of Agusan del Norte, 15 million. The province of Cotabato, 10 million. And the province of Bukidnon, 10 million. To sum up 265 million. So for the information of the governors, the President has authorized the immediate release of the presidential assistance from his Presidential Social Civic Fund on top of the emergency cash assistance that he has also authorized. So the President has instructed us to mobilize food and cash immediately. Thank you, Mr. President.
I think from the reports that we have had, I think that we are doing all right in the food, but the provision of food packs, etc. But as the Secretary was explaining, that it gets to the point na hindi lang pagkain ang kailangan ng tao, that they need to buy other things na para sa kanilang household, no. So that's why the ECTs are become very important. And that's why I released the 265 million to make sure that that phase of the response is immediate at maramdaman kaagad ng tao, meron kaagad silang tulong, maramdaman nila kaagad kung ano yung kailangan nila. Meron silang gagamitin sa pangangailangan nila. So that is the other thing I wanted to ask about is there was only one report about the problem on water supply. What are we doing in terms of providing usually kumukuha tayo ng mga purifiers and
Yes, sir. Sir, tinawag ko na and tomorrow darating na po sila. I'm just looking at the team.
Siyempre, that's very important kasi kung hindi magandang tubig, hindi sapat yung tubig.
Yes, sir.
People will start drinking from questionable sources, magkasakit pa, we will have an outbreak of all kinds of things.
Sir, ang dadalhin po hindi tankers, mga portable po na naka-backpack lang.
Yung bago maliit na eh.
Yeah,
Pwede nang hindi na kailangan pwedeng dalhin kahit saan.
Yes, sir.
Para dahil it's okay, we will bring as much water as we can. But hindi pwedeng yun na lang. We cannot keep bringing water. We have to provide a water supply that is sufficient without bringing in bottled water. So our solution to that has always been to bring water purifiers, some kind of water purifier. Dati, truck pa yan. Ngayon, the technologies have improved. Pwede nang dalhin ng tao. So that's what we will because I didn't see very much response in terms of the water. That's as critical as anything else, especially at this point, because well, you cannot do anything without clean water.
And Mr. President, they're all solar powered.
How many can we
We could immediately mobilize 80, at least 80 teams, and we're actually asking for more from MMDA.
Oh, sige.
So I will just coordinate with the Sekibo for the transportation tomorrow.
Just bring yung especially the more isolated areas.
Sir.
Hindi ba? Na hindi naaabot ng mga bottled water na pinapadala natin. Those are the priority areas. So anyway, from the general reports that we're getting, I think that we are all right in terms of relief. Pero meron na naman tayong nag-landslide, so we have to go back again to rescue, search and rescue. Pero anyway, for the most part, we're na medyo maayos naman na sufficient naman ang binibigay na relief goods in terms of and the other things such as the sanitation kits, and all the other non-food items that are also being brought by DSWD. So just continue to inform us that to inform us as to what is needed. Dahil yung mga numero natin ngayon that we have seen from the shear line to the LPA, there are changes now. Tapos the event is still ongoing in some areas, so we'll have to watch that. The infrastructure problem, really, we will have to we'll prioritize. We will prioritize the thoroughfares, the roads that are necessary for us to be able to bring whatever relief goods are necessary, all of these water purifiers, etc., the equipment that's necessary. Make sure that every barangay maabot natin. Yung mga isolated, yun ang unahin natin. Maghanap tayo ng paraan na makadaan yung mga sasakyan natin para maidala yung mga pangangailangan. Like, again, the food and non-food items of the DSWD. If we have, yung helicopter is okay, pero kaunti lang ang kanilang kayang dalhin. We need truck ang kailangan dyan eh.
Yes, sir. Truck at saka tao-tao plus helicopters. But, sir, I've asked General Bronner also to reach out to his counterparts. Maybe there may be an opportunity for mutual combined operation here.
All right.
Likewise, Mr. President, I also requested General Bronner because we've noticed that we have meals ready to eat that our troops in the field really don't eat because they like hot meals, and these are perfect for evacuation centers because they're already MREs. They're about to expire, some of them, so maybe we can swap with the DSWD for rice and canned goods, which our troops really use rather than the MREs.
Para i-recycle na natin.
And the MREs, sir, are very convenient because they're already individual food packs for 3 meals a day.
Yeah.
Sir,
Yes.
Rene.
With your directive to rethink the design of our action plans, I'd like to inform the local government that DOST, OCD, and the World Bank, in collaboration with other agencies, developed the Plan Smart Ready to Rebuild. And this is an automated planning. Together with your input, you'll be able to look at all the multi-hazards that can affect your areas and plan better para maganda po yung ating rebuilding after all the emergency interventions have been finished. Then we can actually train your planners together with the national agencies and sit down and plan better for your local government. So, Plan Smart Ready to Rebuild po.
For the immediate, I was about to ask you, what's the weather look like?
Mababa na po yung ulan, but the problem with the landslide na nangyari kahapon, there can be a lag time. Kahit maliit ang ulan, may mga deep landslides po na nangyayari. Kaya yung deep landslides ang nakakatabon talaga ng structure.
At saka mukhang, from the comments of the LGUs, mukhang naapektuhan ng lindol.
Yes po. So the earthquake,
Generally speaking, with this kind of rain, hindi naman gumuguho yan.
correct po.
Pero siguro nag-liquefy na ng konti yan.
Yes, na-loosen na po. So every time there's a major earthquake, we have to worry about multiple landslides when the rains come.
Yeah.
So we can train po sila.
But in the best forecast we have, so we do not expect any heavy rains anymore for the next couple of weeks, at least 3 weeks.
Meron pa po mga konting
Meron pa rin.
ulan, but
So, kailangan talagang bantayan.
ang Davao Region and Caraga po ang areas na hindi forecast na maapektuhan ng El Nino kasi maulan talaga ang forecast. Kaya nangyari po na yung dalawang region ang talagang naapektuhan.
Hindi ba natin pwede ilipat yung ulan dun sa...
Pag ganito pong panahon,
sa Visayas.
mga late December and this quarter kasi papunta dito sa Mindanao yung ulan eh.
Okay, well, that's the best forecast that we have. Mukhang mayroon pa rin na ulan kung kailangan pa rin bantayan ito. So those areas that we already have identified that will be flooded, baka we will have to take care of those people, the evacuees first. Huwag muna natin pabalikin sa mga bahay nila, baka maapektuhan na naman sila. Natawagan ako ng scammer. Anyway, this is, I think, again, so here, to go over it again, relief goods, etc., I think are okay. Water supply, we're going to attend to. And make sure that we'll continue to bring in bottled water as much as we can. But it gets to a point na hindi talaga kaya na dahil ang bigat-bigat eh. At saka ang laki ng dinadala. It's much easier, much better to have the purifier. So that's what we will bring to those areas that that need it. On the infrastructure side, we will prioritize those roads and thoroughfares that are necessary for us to be able to provide support to those who have become victims. So yun ang unahin natin. On the longer term, we really have to start looking at the designs of these bridges and roads to see kung if they are still the designs are still compatible with the weather patterns and the effects that DNR is going to provide us with the guidance in terms of how we proceed, because we cannot basta kung i-rebuild lang natin lahat ng nasira, ganun din ang mangyayari. That's the same thing will happen. Or if we're going to rebuild it, we have to rebuild it maybe in a way that is more kailangan mas matibay, kailangan it's stronger, etc. All of that. So that's something that I think that we can attend to as quickly as possible. But again, the situation is still changing. All right. So and then in terms of the cash transfers, that one is immediate. So it's now up to the LGUs to provide us with the listing, etc. But we will already release this. Kayo nang bahala kung saan nyo dadalhin. Because of course you know kung sinong nangangailangan more than anybody else. All right, I think that pretty much covers everything that we have. Are there any other things that the governors, congressmen would like to talk about? Na ano pang kailangan ninyo?
Mr. President, just to add, kausap ko na po yung MMDA. Tomorrow, they'll be having here 80 machines which will give about 180 gallons per hour ang isang makina po. So madami po ito dire-diretso po. Yes, sir.
Very practical yung mga water
180 gallons per hour.
At saka
One machine.
Kahit saan
One
kumuha
machine.
ng tubig pwede. Paglabas malinis talaga.
So tomorrow po, de-deliver na po ng MMDA.
Oh, sige. All right. Yes, Lord.
One more request po for the DSWD. Kasi nga, because of the landslide that we had last night, there are many that we evacuated in several evacuation centers. So we need ASAP po sana mga additional tents po.
Yes, ma'am.
Tents po.
Tent shelters.
Shelters. Kasi andun lang sila sa mga gym, yung iba, tapos walang...
Baka ilan ng evacuate?
Kasi 800 families. Oo. Kasi 3 barangays po yung na-evacuate namin.
Sige, Gov. We'll mobilize it. Meron ho kami. Kakadating din lang.
Okay. Thank you po.
Kasi we nakapag-forward placement tayo. In other words, bago pa dumating, nailapit na namin lahat ng gamit. So that's why the response was relatively quick. But again, for that, we have to hear from you, from the local government, kasi kayo talagang nakakaalam. I mean, the national government is only here to support you with all of this. But you have to make the request to us para naman mabigyan natin ng tulong.
Mr. President?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Mr. President, ang immediate po na kailangan ng Davao del Norte is yung pagkain, tubig at food packs po at yung mga gamit po sa mga bata para sa pagbalik nila sa eskwela. And tanong ko po, Mr. President, ito lang po gusto ko lang i-clear. Kung during the distribution of the food packs or any support coming from the national government or coming from the Department of Social Welfare and Development or the DOLE, sino po ba ang authorized to distribute? Is the local government ba, like municipio, the city, the province, or
depending on what the assistance is.
to the any elected official po?
Yes, go ahead.
Gov, like in the food packs kasi, iba-iba yung request na natatanggap namin. And we try to fulfill ng sabay-sabay. There will be requests from the provincial level, we'll give it to the province. There will be requests direct from the mayors, we give it to the mayors.
Yes.
There will be requests from the Congress people, we'll give it to the Congress people. So at this point in time, I would assume dahil lahat tayo busy,
Yes.
the different elected officials are all tasked to move all at the same time. So yun.
Usually, ganun ang sistema.
Yes po.
Sa local government talaga binababa. Meron like yung sa DOLE, sa bawat isa, silang nag-a-assess it. Silang gumagawa ng assessment. But for the most part, it's really local government. Kasi sinasagot lang namin yung request ninyo.
Yes po, Mr. President. Kasi during calamity, ang kumukuha ng data at ang gumagawa ng quick response is the municipio, the city, and the province. And also collecting data, kami ang lahat ng in charge, yung LGU at PLGU. But like what happened in Davao del Norte, minsan kasi may hindi po nakarating sa province, pero na-distribute, iba naman ang nag-distribute. And gusto po ako mag-thank you po kay Ma'am Inday Sara na quick response po, nagbigay kagad siya ng support doon sa Davao del Norte po. Ma'am. Thank you so much po, Ma'am.
Anton, you had wanted to add something?
Lahat naman na nag-request, doon naman ibibigay. Pag hindi mag-request, hindi nabibigay. Tapos, pag nawawala dito, hindi rin nabibigay sa inyo. Kung wala kayo, we have to go to the next who's there, di ba? So, yun yung man nangyayari.
Pero mostly, LGU talaga. LGU talaga ang inaasahan namin. Oo. We depend on the national government cannot do this by itself. As I said, we support you with cash transfer, with relief goods. But kayo ang magsasabi sa amin kung saan dadalhin, kung saan ang uunahin, saan yung hindi na nga pwedeng pumasok, etc. etc. That's why makita naman ninyo, pagka maganda yung quick response ng ginawa ng LGU, kagaya ngayon, may magandang effect talaga. So that's why we are trying to improve our forecasting para makapag-warning kami na maaga sa inyo na makapaghanda kayo for whatever it is that is coming your way. So except nung lindol, syempre hindi pa natin ma-forecast yan. So that's the general situation pag-release ng ng mga resources, mga tulong. So, yes, LGU pa rin, LGU. LGU-centric ang national government. All right, is there anything else that anybody would like to add? All right, thank you very much. Thank you. We are adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. President. At this point, the President shall lead the turnover of assistance from the Office of the President to the affected cities and municipalities in the region. May we call on Governor Dorothy Gonzaga, together with the mayors of Davao de Oro, to receive the check. At this point, we call on Governor Gonzaga, together with the mayors of Davao de Oro, to receive the check. And now, may we call on Governor Edwin Hubahib, together with the mayors of Davao del Norte, to receive the check. Next, Governor Nino Soteruoy, together with the mayors of Davao Oriental, to receive the check. Davao Occidental Provincial Administrator Attorney Geoffrey Navarra, together with the Provincial Treasurer, to receive the check. Please prepare Davao City Operations and Warning Division Acting Head, Mr. Rodrigo Bustilo, to receive the check. Davao City Operations and Warning Division, Mr. Rodrigo Bustilo, to receive the check.
Thank you, Mr. President. This assistance will surely benefit the people of Davao Region. That ends our program for today. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, the President of the Republic of the Philippines, President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.